Back in 2013, The Verge quoted the late great Satoru Iwata as saying that Nintendo shouldn't and wouldn't put their games on smartphones. He said that it would be a short-sighted decision and that, and I quote, "If we think 20 years down the line, we may look back at the decision not to supply Nintendo games with smartphones and think that is the reason why the company is still here." It's only been 3 years since Nintendo expressed such strong feelings, and now, in 2017, we have seen more than a few games sporting the Nintendo logo on our phones and tablets. Pokemon Go led the way and took the world by storm for a while. It's now a shadow of its peak, but the game is still getting updates and people are still playing it. I mean, not people I know, but I know they're out there somewhere. This was followed by Super Mario Run. Rather than porting something from the 3DS or Wii consoles, Nintendo showed with this game that they understood the design limitations of a smartphone, giving us a Mario game where you can play with just one finger. In fact, it was reported in VentureBeat that Nintendo plans to release more than 3 mobile games a year in the future. So don't be surprised if big Nintendo franchises start rolling onto your phones and for the company to dredge up classics that have been long forgotten by the mainstream. Please be Metroid, please be Metroid, please be Metroid. I was, however, surprised by the release of Fire Emblem Heroes, simply because Fire Emblem is a game that is from a pretty obscure niche. If you didn't know, I am a pretty big fan of the franchise, so the release of a mainstream free-to-play game immediately caught my interest. I've been playing the mobile game on and off since release, and I've developed some thoughts on how it compares to the more recent flagship Fire Emblem games. There is actually an important question here, since a lot of people are getting their first taste of Fire Emblem in the form of this app. The 2 big questions I see coming from this app are, 1, should Fire Emblem players care about Heroes? And 2, should new players who like Heroes go for the main games? The first question we can throw out almost straight away. Heroes is a free-to-play game. If you haven't already, go out and try it. It won't cost you a thing unless you really feel like you have to blow money on it. But it's not so simple the other way around. If you want to play the latest games in the main series, you'll have to pull out some cash. If you don't own anything from the 3DS family or the 2DS, you'll have to buy one of those handhelds and then fork out another $40 or so to actually buy the game. So I've decided to make this video mainly for you guys who are thinking of stepping from the mobile app into the more core games. After all, for a lot of people, these new mobile Nintendo games may be their first contact with a lot of Nintendo franchises that are not Pokemon, Mario, or Zelda. First things first, let's just talk a little bit about Heroes, the mobile game. I'll get it right out of the way and say that I think Heroes is actually a pretty damn good mobile game. The developers have given us a generally polished and well-balanced game, at least for the version 1.0 release. The very core concept of a Fire Emblem game is there. You have a bunch of characters who fight on a battlefield in a turn-based style. They each level up in various ways, improving their skills, gear, and stats. But Heroes is also a gacha game. The way you obtain heroes is through random draws. The heroes themselves are drawn from all over the Fire Emblem universe, and the game itself features a story that explains how all of this is possible. Since this is a gacha game, it means that 2 of the same heroes can be different. 5-star heroes have a much better ultimate growth potential than 3-star ones. This means that the strategy RPG part of Heroes is not really its main focus. The main focus is really collecting and assembling the right collection of heroes. While it is possible to upgrade heroes you've got to a higher star rating using hero feathers, the cost of doing this going from 4 to 5 stars is so high that it's much more effective to spend in-game items to roll for more heroes. The actual strategy gameplay in the game is very light, and you really don't need to be particularly tactical to win. I finished all 3 difficulty levels of the main campaign in the first 3 days. The story is unfortunately one of those things that you can basically ignore. Fire Emblem Heroes is light in every sense of the word when it's compared to something like Fire Emblem Awakening. For a free-to-play game that will still receive more content, I have to say that there's actually a lot you can do here. Heroes is a perfect game to play when you have a few minutes to kill every now and then over the course of the day. Apart from that, I really like the portrait artwork and the small amount of CG video we do get to see, and various bits of flavor peppered around the game. Ironically, I think someone who's already played some Fire Emblem under their belt will appreciate the game more, in the same way that Gen 1 Pokemon players could with Pokemon Go. So as a mobile game that only has a mild grind, that doesn't seem to be all that pay-to-winish at this point, I quite like Heroes. But as a Fire Emblem game, well, it's only a small appetizer.
This one's on the house.
Most of the mechanics that have made the new Fire Emblem game such hits are completely missing here. Notably, there's no waifu-loving matching going on here, and as a whole, it doesn't really feel coherent. which may just be the inevitable result of the gacha design. It's actually a bit of a miracle that we're actually talking about Fire Emblem in 2017. Even in Japan, the games have been in a downward spiral in terms of popularity. So let's get back to answering the second question in detail. Having played the games in question, I think anyone who's enjoyed the basic experience of Heroes will have an absolute blast playing Awakening, especially in casual mode. Unless you're already a strategy RPG fan, I don't think going straight for the pre-Awakening games would be a good idea, but don't worry, you get a lot of game for your $40. I'm actually very happy that Fire Emblem Heroes exists. Apart from being a worthy time waster in its own right, I'm glad that it's going to introduce more people to the characters and settings of the Fire Emblem multiverse. For one thing, I'm pretty sure Camelia's artwork in Heroes is going to shift a lot of copies of Fate. I mean, come on, we all know why we bought Conquest. Now, just for this video, I'm not going to talk about the implications of Nintendo moving into the mobile space in detail, but I will say that I'm somewhat ecstatic that a company that sits on so many iconic and quality IPs is starting to open them up for the rest of us. While the Fire Emblem franchise is riding high on the success of Awakening and Fates, games like Heroes, if they keep the quality up, will help make these games sustainable. It may also, and I'm hoping, open the door to more full premium games. But I'm not gonna start holding my breath as of right now. As for now, I am satisfied that I get a quick Fire Emblem fix on my phone, and that my 3DS is still there so I can spend another 50 hours on the quest to arrange the most unsuitable marriages I can think of. Yeah, I was that guy that shipped Lisa with Henry, and let's just say the results are pretty catastrophic. God damn, I am fucked up.